Today I want to talk about a special sorts of people. These people can basically be summed up as people who are constantly begging for diversity. I simply call them diversity beggars. Diversity beggars are interesting fellows. In order to truly understand their mindset, you need to just focus in this one simple sentence. I need to win, and I will win with whatever it takes. Key emphasis with the word I, signifying self-interest, win, signifying their target state of their goals, and whatever it takes, signifying unorthodox, unethical, and maybe even illegal methods in order to achieve said goals. Keep in mind that while most illegal behaviors are definitely unethical, not a lot of unethical behaviors are illegal, and people can just emerge victorious in order to win against whatever opponents they have for that day by committing unethical behaviors that are not illegal. The problem with committing unethical behaviors is figuring out how to get away with it, which ever since a lot of movements such as GamerGate figure out that journalists in general are unethical, so many people try so hard to either hide their unethical practices or even insult those who dare to bring it up by demonizing the critics with the most horrendous names. And as you may already know, it didn't work out well, especially when they kept on saying that it was GamerGate who caused Trump to get elected. This is why you shouldn't commit unethical behaviors, like lying to people, for example. You will always get caught, and the efforts of hiding it is just a waste of time, money, energy, and probably your soul. You would be better off fapping. So here's a picture. While I'm not the most honest person in the room, I try not to lie too much because not only the fact that it's unethical, that an asshole thing to do, but I just couldn't be bothered in figuring out how to get away with it. And whatever attempts I have in trying to get away with unethical behaviors like lying to people or scamming people, the technology of current year has put me in the direction of thousands of people's eyes and ears, including yours. I'm not a cunning master planner. I can't lie and properly plan out how to get away with those lies. And even if I am the master of all con artists who managed to get away with all the lies and profits, I am still concerned over my public perception. Unfortunately, not a lot of people realize that unethical behaviors like lying to people is just a patch to the wound that is your mutilated arm. No matter what you do, you're not going to be able to get the same arm ever again. Our cyborg tech is still very primitive, for the record, the same way our technologies of covering lies is still very primitive. So to anybody who dares to even try to lie about something, especially when it's a big lie, think about what kind of lie you're going to make and think 10 steps ahead. No matter how good of a master planner you are, you're eventually going to get caught. Sure, you might be able to get away with it without consequences, but are you capable of covering it up? I am highly doubtful. In this day and age, every single person who straight up lied or commit unethical behaviors, a lot of them are able to get away with it, sure, but just so you know, not one of them managed to cover their lies up to the point where people don't know what they're lying about. Not one. Name me one person who managed to cover their lies up so successfully to the point where nobody knows it. Actually, you shouldn't, because naming them in the first place is a huge contradiction. So back to diversity beggars. These diversity beggars are going to do whatever it takes, including unethical behaviors like lying to people and be dishonest, all for the sake of their own self-interest and their misguided sense of victory. This article will highlight to you exactly how.
Games Workshop and me on representation.
I've always said this so many times that the demands of representation or diversity is purely out of self-interest on the disguise of the greater good. It's not really about the greater good. It's not really about representation and diversity of minorities in certain fields of entertainment media. It's about taking over control over an existing entertainment media by masquerading it on the greater good. So the article starts off with saying that it's been a really tough week for those who signed up in the Games Workshop forum. Why? Because people are saying angry comments. Why are there angry comments? Because someone dared to ask about representation. Okay, so what is the question?
One conversation that threw a flurry of vehement responses before being stopped by the group's bots began with a mild question. Is it a problem that there are very few people of color represented in Games Workshop games?
Oh, a mild question, you say, coming into a certain fan base and shift the entire topic to be about race and literally ask, whoa, guys, there are too many white people here. Where are the Asians? Where are the black people at? You know, What if I come into your house and say the same thing? What if I come into a district in Harlem and say the exact same thing except for white people? Does that sound impolite? Yes, it does. Not only it is impolite, it is also incredibly rude. And if you miss it, people don't like to be treated with disrespect, especially you, right? You don't want to be treated with disrespect. You clearly showed throughout this entire article that you're complaining about how angry and disrespectful Warhammer 40k fans are. Well, maybe you should not ask disrespectful questions. This is just you baiting Warhammer 40k fans for a reaction so that you can paint them as toxic. They're not toxic. You're just being hugely disrespectful to them, and for no good reason. Like, why do you have to ask that question? Just because you ask them nicely doesn't make it any less impolite. As for the answer to your question, no, it's never been a problem to any community that I've been in. It's never been a problem to the video game community, anime community, comic books community, YouTube community, skeptic community. Nope, it's never been a problem for me. I do want to know how is it a problem for some people, but unfortunately, most of the people that have this problem tend to be incredibly self-centered and egotistical, which brings me to the conclusion that the problem isn't the community, but more of the individual who brings it up. Have you ever thought of that? Or maybe you're one of those self-righteous people who thinks that everything that you do is the most perfect thing ever. Anyway, apparently the discussion became so toxic to the point where the moderators have to shut down the conversation before it became too cancerous.
The 18 answers submitted were variations on, no, there doesn't need to be more, and that's a stupid question. Variations that contain a lot more words beginning with F. The mods quickly shut the conversation down before it became too cancerous.
Well, that is not only a stupid question, but also a rude question. If you are being rude and disrespectful towards a particular community, expect rude and disrespectful comments back. You're the sorts of people that just abandon the golden rule straight out of the window, all for your own self-interest of winning and taking over whatever fandoms that are popular these days. The most unsurprising thing out of all of this is that whoever asked that question has little to no sense of guilt. Whoever asked that question never once thought that it may have been incredibly rude and impolite to go into a community and go, holy shit, there are too many white people in here. Seriously, how much of a killjoy do you have to be that you need to go into a relatively popular and peaceful community and ask, why are there too many white people in the room? And by the way, not being rude or impolite, it's not the same as being politically correct. Political correctness is more about the statement and its effects. Politeness is more about the behaviors, the context, and the timing of where you say those statements. You can say politically incorrect things and still be polite in a conversation. And just because you say things that are politically correct doesn't mean that it's not rude. If you go into a specific fan base and say that we need more diversity, where are the black people at? There are too many white people in here. It's a politically correct statement, but the timing is way off. You're shifting the topic that a community peacefully discussed together into a topic that you wish they pay attention to even though they don't want to. You're acting rudely towards a community that ignores race and gender in favor of Warhammer 40k. You're being incredibly disrespectful. If you can't see why people are pissed at you, you are delusional.
The speed and vehemence with which the original poster was closed down gave me pause for thought. There is clearly something going on here that needs examining. First, there's the issue of the representation of people of color in the Warhammer world, but then there are the reactions of the game's players.
Nope. Representation is not the issue. You are the issue. You are being rude towards the Warhammer 40k fans by bringing up race when everybody in the fanbase are already ignoring such things. I have encountered the Warhammer 40k fans and most of their discussions are centered around Warhammer 40k, which is great. If you stifle the discussion and make it about race and representation, you are missing the point. But okay, you want the Warhammer 40k fans to talk about the issues that you bring up. You want to make sure that the things that they ignore because it's rude and impolite to do so, you want it to be put in center and front, you freaking heretic. You want to talk about representation and diversity and the inclusion of certain races in the Warhammer 40k universe? Okay, so let me ask you a couple of fundamental questions. First, why or how is this an issue? In every fandom that I have joined, people are welcoming. People are accepting. All you need to do in order to be accepted is to play the games, participate in matches. If you're a noob on things, they are happy to help you. If you don't have any dice or peripherals that you need to start your tabletop RPG, they will happily assist you and provide you with dices, etc. If you suck at the video games, they're happy to help you. If you have technical difficulties in the game, they will help you. Oh my god, what a horrible community to be in, right? Second, who are asking to be represented? I can certainly say for sure that among my friends who are fans of games like Dota 2 or Counter-Strike or Overwatch, none of those popular games have Indonesians. Angry Birds, one of the most popular games of all time, no human beings represented at all, and everybody plays the game. The reason? Because the games are fun, and that's what's important, and especially because we're not a bunch of self-centered heretic. We know that video games are not and will never be about us. You are basically begging for video games or have video games to be made about you. You want the video game industry senpai to notice you. And you do this by masquerading for minorities when they don't need you. And third, why do you have to be such a condescending heretic about it? I mean, seriously, going into a peaceful community of Warhammer 40k fans and then suddenly go, whoa, we're the black people here, too many white people, this has to stop. And when the people reacted with hostility because you're being a fucking heretic, you go, oh my god, the fan base are toxic. And since you're not going to answer all of those three questions because you mark everybody who even slightly disagree with you as part of the toxic fan base, I can just answer those three questions with, because senpai didn't notice me, I asked for senpai to notice me, I just want senpai to notice me, and if you disagree, you're a bigot. So to anybody who are in any sorts of community, just so you know this, these people who are coming into your community and asking for diversity, they're coming in with malicious intent. No matter how polite you are, no matter how concise you are, they will mark you as a toxic part of the fan base simply for disagreeing with them. And we're not even into the most ironic part.
Before I dig into this, I have to lay my cards on the table or maybe show my dice. I'm a white middle-class British male. I have never suffered through not being represented. I can therefore only imagine what it must be like not to see yourself reflected in the media and popular culture of the day.
I just... Shut up. Shut up. You are clearly a heretic to this community. Your words worth jack squat. I'm just going to pretend that you're not what you are because frankly, that's not important. Your ideas are important. I don't care if you're white or black or brown. You can have great ideas if you're human regardless of skin color. If your ideas are horrendous and you deliver those ideas in a very impolite manner, oh boy, you're going to get called out, buddy. You're going to get purged. So our writer proceeds to ask the most important question in the room.
Is there enough representation of minority groups on the Warhammer table? The short answer to this question is no.
Cue the cries of the most self-centered Tumblrites in the room crying that senpai haven't noticed them. Oh, and by the way, I'm not kidding when I say that this writer go into the fanbase and go, we're the black people, we're the Africans, we're the Japanese, we're the Mexicans.
If you take a look at the Astra Militarium, the most human and fleshy of the 40k range, you'll see a host of miniatures that draw on historical references, but all those models are white. There is nothing drawn from African, Japanese, or Hispanic references. The People's Army from China, the largest army in the world, has no representation.
Wow, like... Oh my god, who goes into a community, says this, and doesn't immediately look like a total jackass? Who? I really want to know.
Much of the reason for this is historical. Many of these forces were created back in the 80s, where the world was a different place. The game was designed in Middle England by men just like me, for men like me. It's little wonder it turned out like it did.
And you know what's the most magical thing about Warhammer 40k, other than the fact that it has one hell of a kick-ass universe? Anybody can play the game or the board games, be a fan of them, learn more about the universe, all without the needs of being white, British, or male. As long as you have normal human functions like thinking, feeling, writing, etc. As long as you know how to play the games, as long as you know how to have fun, you will be accepted and welcome in the community. Fun is a universal language that video games can spread to pretty much anybody who played it. But these people do not understand anything about fun, as demonstrated with their skills on playing video games. Okay, now you're good at it. Good. Finally, the guy's improving. There we go. Learning from his mistake. Very slowly but surely, which is fantastic. Avoid! Come on! You're too left. Okay, nobody's in there. Go to the right. Shoot the enemies. Ignore that guy, ignore that guy. Okay, there we go. There we go. Shoot that guy over there. Wow, you are lucky. Okay, never mind. Never mind. Spoke too soon. Wow, that's a nice dodge. Nice dodge there. Okay. Okay. And you know what else these diversity beggars suck at? Making arguments.
But things are changing. Marvel has changed the baseline of their stories to be more inclusive. The new heroes in the Star Wars franchise are far more representative of the world's population than the heroes of 77 were. So why not Games Workshop?
Wow, putting in the big guns there, eh? So Games Workshop should commit diversity because everybody does that, and therefore it's great. Putting aside the fact that the Star Wars universe is tainted by an astonishingly horrendous writing like, do I have to read that? I don't have to read that, do I? Or how about Legend of Korra? Say what you want about the cartoon, but here's a taste of diversity for you. Read that and embrace the diversity. Marvel, good choice. Go and read these. Go ahead, pause the video and read. Embrace the diversity. Do you see how diversity is just basically making your favorite fictions 10 times cringier? But hey, let's make Warhammer 40k to be like Tumblr because we're in short of supply on Heresy.
The size of its fan base is probably something to do with it. Games Workshop has a global presence, but it hasn't permeated every strand of society like Star Wars has. Its fan base is still predominantly white men. Since the company probably draws most of its employees from that fan base, the culture at the company is unlikely to shift.
This writer is also incredibly narrow-minded. There are lots of Warhammer 40k fanbase from around the world. Some of my commenters are from South America, Mexico, Spain, and are also fans of Warhammer 40k. Maybe if you're one and you're in a different region or speak different language, comment down below. Is it the majority? No, but that's because Warhammer 40k is a very Western-centric tabletop role-playing game, and it appeals to Westerners more than any other. Is there anything wrong with that? Well, according to your eyes, yes there is. Apparently fiction has to appeal to everyone. But hey, I'm a person of color who is not a fan of Warhammer 40k. Maybe it's because those evil white men and I don't feel included. No, actually, that's not really the issue. I'm not a fan of Warhammer 40k, not because the universe isn't awesome or the characters are not awesome, but I haven't had the chance to invest myself in them. I highly enjoyed Dawn of War, but I played it ages ago and I forgot a lot of things. I really don't care if the characters are white or that my race isn't included. Only the most self-centered individuals in the planet would, and I don't know why is Tumblr their living breeding ground.
Should it even try?
Good question. Should it even try? Well, I've shown you examples in what happens when people inject diversity, so I'll leave the decisions to you.
I sympathize with Game Workshop's position. Moving to create more inclusive miniatures range is fraught with peril. Not only may it antagonize its conservative fanbase, to which I say, so what? They need to take a look around them. Games Workshop runs the risk of screwing up the representation itself.
And now you're openly being a dick to conservatives. Diversity! Screw your conservative feelings! Bizarrely enough, the writer is aware that this entire thing is a form of tokenism, which is racist, but he cannot stop opening his mouth and saying something.
I can see from Games Workshop perspective that maintaining the status quo is the safest thing to do. By changing, they open themselves to accusations of tokenism and mistakenly providing negative representation. There is a risk they create something patronizing and trope-filled, but I feel they ought to at least try.
Yes, that's right. Include characters just for the sake of diversity, not because the creators wanted them to be included, but because that will trample those horrible white men. And here's a wonderful segment on this article. The writer is going to explain to us why representation is important.
Must a game include people of color in order to appeal to them? The idea that the game must contain people of color in order to be interesting to them is potentially patronizing, but it's not difficult to see that having no representation in the hobby is unlikely to invite them in.
It's not difficult to see that having no representation in the hobby is unlikely to invite people in. Actually, yes, it is difficult, and I'm not even white, so can you please explain to me in 20 words or less?
It could be argued that there are a lot of white fans of manga and anime, popular cultural phenomena in which there's little or no Western representation. This lack of representation is not a barrier to white people enjoying the media. I think there's an important difference. White Westerners have not suffered through generations of being told, no, this is not for you.
Oh, wow. So apparently the reason why people of color cannot enjoy Warhammer 40k is because they suffered generations of being told that Warhammer 40k is not for them. That reminds me of that one article that I did a video on a couple of months ago of how apparently D&D is for white kids with money. And ever since that video, a lot of users have brought in lots of wonderful comments explaining to me why this phenomenon happened. Surprisingly enough, it's not thanks to white people. So do you know why non-white people suffer from generations of being told that certain works of fiction is not for them? Well, you see, in America, non-white families have a strong sense of loyalty, and some of these families are so strong to the point of pure collectivism. A lot of non-whites in America are being told that hobbies like video games or comic books are only for white people. And who are these monsters who told them these monstrous things? Their own community of non-whites. Here are excerpts from that D&D article. So their own non-white communities are telling them that comic books are not for them, video games are not for them, Warhammer 40k is not for them. It's not white people who tell them, hey, black person over there, this is not for you. No, it's thanks to their own families or friends in their own non-white community having a horrendous collectivist and frankly racist mindset that doing common hobbies like reading comic books or playing video games is considered acting white. There are some hilarious but also tragic instances where black people are being told to succumb into the black gangster stereotype, and if they don't do that, they're basically acting white. Apparently, acting white in some instances is the equivalent of acting like a decent human being. I don't know the full details of how that happened because I don't live in America, but some of my commenters who lived in America basically told me that that's the case, which is horrendous, but I would love for you guys to share your thoughts about this. Still, if somebody told you that a certain hobby isn't for you because you're not in a certain race, tell them to go fuck themselves. Enjoy whatever hobbies you love. No one gets to control what you like and don't like. Not your friends, not your family, you. You control it. You have control of your life. You like whatever you like. Don't have other people to say what you can and cannot like. Also, to suggest that white people do not suffer through this when they say that they love anime is a straight up lie. Any anime fan can tell you, regardless of race, that they are shamed for watching anime.
Judging from the comments in the forums, there are still people who don't mind projecting this type of exclusivity. I'm not suggesting that they are in a majority, but they are a vocal minority. I suspect if asked in isolation, they would be much more polite and thoughtful in their answers, but as a collective, with nobody to hold them to account, the man tribe spits out the bile.
And now you are projecting. Absolutely wonderful.
What common arguments are used against increasing diversity?
This is bait. This is serious bait.
It's just a game. This is true. It's just a game. But it misses the obvious point that the game should be for everybody. Nobody should feel excluded, either through game's makeup or the attitudes of its players.
Nobody should feel excluded. Good advice. Let's start off with purging heretics who want to exclude people. As in people like you.
It's already diverse. You can paint the figures for any color you like. This seems to be willfully missing the point. Yes,
wait. Someone who deliberately misses people's points and call them toxic is accusing people of deliberately missing the point? Stop, dude. Seriously, just stop for a moment and look at yourself in the mirror before you even open your mouth. Not reading any more of that because you're clearly an idiot.
The salamanders are literally black. Well, that's true. According to the 4K lexicanum, as a result of the reaction between their genetics and the high level of radiation in Nocturne, salamanders' battle brothers have dark or jet or black skin and bright, burning eyes. That's right. The only dark-skinned space marines are the way due to radiation poisoning, and their eyes glow like demons. Welcome to the hobby, people.
Yeah, welcome to the hobby where the salamanders kick ass, and you're in the Warhammer 40k universe where almost nobody is a good guy. I don't even know why would you want to be represented because, as far as I know, everybody in Warhammer 40k has committed horrendous atrocities. The idea that you want to be represented in Warhammer 40k is like saying you want to be represented in a game where Hitler and Stalin are fighting.
It's grimdark. Get over it. An excuse used for being generally insulting and or misogynistic. I happened to see it this morning, an unrelated post with some offensive remarks that were overtly sexual in nature. One person complained that it was vulgar, and one of the reasons given why the post was okay is that the game is grimdark.
Oh, now you're going to police people's behaviors after the many stunts you pulled on being a heretical jackass? You are in no position of judging people's behaviors. I'm skipping this.
If you genuinely believe these things mean diversity is unnecessary, then so be it. These points can be debated, but many commenters don't want to even have the debate. They want the conversation closed down and are abusive to anybody who tries to start it.
Oh nice! Another piece of projection! Absolutely fantastic! Keep in mind that you're the sorts of person who come into someone else's room and go, "We're the black people! Too many whites here!" You have no sense of guilt or shame. You have no sense of self-awareness or even any sort of decency. We're abusive to anyone who tries to start this conversation because they're being incredibly impolite, horrendously disingenuous, and asking the most irrelevant and divisive question that would break this community. If you're purged out of this community, I don't care what you call us, we're going to purge you anyway. Who's with me?
And that, for me, is the most pernicious thing about the reaction to the post. If I were a person of color, prepared to accept that I didn't have much representation in the game, I imagine that I would still like it to be more diverse.
No, I don't. I don't want things to be more diverse. You are a lunatic who needs to be purged. You're dividing people based on race, and you're using minorities as tokens for your freaking political narrative. Screw you!
The narrative for the answers and subsequent closing down the debate sends the message that some players don't care whether it is or not. They have their game, and there's no need to spoil it by letting anybody else join the club. It's a hostile attitude, one that would make anybody on the outside or fringes of the hobby turn around, walk away, and never return. This behavior is as stupid as it is insulting.
Good! You are offended by our behaviors of dismissing people who are being rude, disingenuous, douchebag? Fucking excellent! The exit is right there. We don't need people like you. We don't want people like you to ruin our hobbies, ruin our community, and divide people even more by their race or gender. Good job to anyone in the Warhammer 40k fans kicking these bastards off.
What would increased diversity mean?
Yes, please tell me. Please tell me. I'm running out of insults for you, and I know I should be responding to your points, but your points are so insulting that I can't help but to retaliate with more insults. I'm sorry, but if you come into the Warhammer 40k space or any sort of space with an insulting and condescending attitude, we can't help but to retaliate. And if you're gonna call us toxic and unwelcoming and not inclusive, I honestly don't care. I want everybody to be welcome in all fan bases, but there are certain groups of people that ruins all the fun so much to the point where I don't mind purging them out of existence or make them to be not welcome in here. And you are those sorts of people. If you're not welcome in his fan base, it's actually a benefit for us. Because we're not going to be divisive. Because we're not going to divide people based on race. Because we're not going to put identity politics in front of us. We can enjoy our hobbies in peace without the needs of being reminded with politics. Stop this shit, please.
New storylines, new miniature ranges, and an increased pool of players to play against with new markets in which Games Workshop can sell its products. Increasing diversity is win-win for everybody. It's great for the creators, the players, and for those on the outside looking in.
That is surprisingly the most sane statement that you made throughout this entire thing. It's almost as if another writer decided to replace you. I personally would just suggest to make good games and people would just come over and enjoy them. People would even recommend stuff. Maybe you Warhammer 40k fans can recommend us noobs who want to start off our Warhammer 40k journeys. Still, if you're a part of a fandom like Warhammer 40k or any other stuff, just so you know, these people come to divide you. There are a couple of things that you can do. Don't give these people power. Any moderation power that these people have, and they will abuse it to an nth degree. Counter their arguments with your points. Should you be polite or go ballistic at them? Well, these people are going to mark you for being toxic even if you're polite. So depends on your personality, I guess. If you're the persuasive type, go for it. If you're the aggressive type, also go for it. And most importantly, if these people insult you and say that you're toxic, their opinions do not matter. As long as you can show that they're the ones who incited the toxicity first, as long as you can show that this is an unfair characterization, as long as you can prove them wrong, you are absolutely good to go. So to all of these diversity beggars, instead of running away, calling people names, or even blocking them out of social media when you're being called out, how about engage us in a discussion? I genuinely do want to know why you really want diversity. And thanks to you running away from any sort of discussion every single time, I always attribute it to nothing but pure self-interest and your desire of winning with whatever unorthodox methods that you have. If you disagree and you want to discuss this, my DM is open. Before we end this video, we have a couple of really damn good fan arts here. First is the chibi goblin or Chiblin sorts of fan art that was kind of like Umaru or Diva, made by the wonderful Jennifer Daw. I love you, thanks for the fan art. And also from one of my fellow subscribers, Chris Breyer, a fan art of me planning the end of the world. Get back to the robot, Shinji, you dumb bitch, or try cross-dressing next time. That's all for the video today. If you like this, you can go ahead, click the like button, and subscribe for more. If you wish, you can support me on Patreon. And thanks for watching.